Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi dan salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Pertama-tama, marilah kita sama-sama memanjatkan puji dan syukur kehadirat Tuhan Yang Maha Esa karena atas berkat dan rahmat-Nya sehingga kita semua dapat berkumpul bersama-sama secara virtual untuk menghadiri webinar kita pada hari ini yang bertajuk Can Blockchain Save Our Cities? Dengan narasumber Dr. Jonathan Frekenthal. Sebelum kita memasuki dalam sesi webinar kita pada hari ini, perkenalkan saya Emilia Utomo, selaku moderator pada hari ini akan memandu webinar pada hari ini dan juga akan bertindak sebagai interpreter dalam webinar pada hari ini. Sebelum itu saya akan membacakan terlebih dahulu tata tertib webinar pada hari ini. Yang pertama yaitu peserta diharapkan dapat bergabung dalam Zoom meeting 30 menit sebelum acara dimulai dan diwajibkan untuk mengikuti rangkaian acara hingga selesai. Panitia berhak melakukan log meeting atau kunci meeting setelah acara berlangsung selama 30 menit. Dan setelah panitia melakukan log meeting, maka peserta tidak diperkenankan lagi untuk masuk ke dalam meeting. Peserta dapat masuk ke dalam Zoom meeting setelah mendapatkan alamat link dari panitia. Bagi peserta yang tidak dapat bergabung di Zoom, maka dapat mengikuti webinar ini melalui live YouTube Ruang Seminar TV. Ketika webinar berlangsung, peserta diharapkan untuk mematikan mikrofon agar webinar dapat berjalan dengan seksama. Kemudian, peserta dapat menyalakan mikrofon ketika sesi tanya jawab yang akan dipandu oleh moderator. Kemudian peserta juga dapat mengajukan pertanyaan, dapat menggunakan kolom chat dengan format nama asal perguruan tinggi _pertanyaan. Selain itu juga dapat menggunakan fitur raise hand dengan menyebutkan nama lengkap setelah dipersilakan oleh moderator, kemudian mengklik fitur lower hand setelah pertanyaan dijawab. Bagi peserta yang mengikuti webinar via live streaming YouTube, juga dapat mengajukan pertanyaan via kolom chat dengan format yang sama, yaitu nama asal perguruan tinggi pertanyaan. Kemudian di akhir acara, peserta diharapkan untuk mengaktifkan kamera untuk melakukan sesi foto bersama yang akan dipandu oleh moderator. Kemudian, peserta tidak diperkenankan merekam dan menyebarkan video meeting dalam bentuk apapun. Peserta diwajibkan mengikuti acara dari awal hingga akhir, dan yang terakhir, e-sertifikat akan dibagikan melalui email H+3 sampai dengan H+7 setelah webinar berlangsung. Nah, selanjutnya, sebagai informasi bahwa hari ini webinar pada hari ini yaitu webinar bilingual, sehingga ketika webinar dimulai, teman-teman dapat memilih bahasa utama yang ingin didengarkan, apakah itu bahasa Inggris atau bahasa Indonesia dengan menggunakan fitur language pada aplikasi Zoom masing-masing. Baiklah, kita akan segera memasuki sesi webinar kita pada hari ini, namun sebelum itu saya akan memperkenalkan profil dari narasumber kita terlebih dahulu. Beliau adalah Dr. Jonathan Frekenthal, merupakan CEO dari Human Future, sebuah firma yang bergerak di bidang bisnis, pendidikan teknologi, dan juga konsultan. Beliau pernah menjabat sebagai Chief Information Officer atau CIO dari kota Palo Alto, Amerika Serikat, dan telah memenangkan berbagai penghargaan di bidang teknologi selama karirnya selama 30 tahun, baik di sektor publik maupun sektor swasta. Beberapa penghargaan yang pernah beliau peroleh diantaranya yaitu pada tahun 2017, beliau merupakan salah satu dari top 100 CIO di dunia dan pada tahun 2016 mendapatkan penghargaan sebagai top influential CIO di Amerika Serikat. Tanpa berlama-lama lagi, saya akan langsung mengundang narasumber kita pada hari ini. Hello, good evening, Dr. Jonathan. How are you?
Hey, good to see you again.
Yeah,
I don't
really
know what you
good to see
said.
you again.
I'm not sure
I've
what
just
you were
introduced
saying,
you.
but it sounded wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. I've just introduced you to our audience today about your profile and everything. And I'm really glad to see you again here after our webinar previously. So I think without any further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Jonathan Reckenthal to start the talk. Dr. Jonathan, the time is yours.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen because that's the first task. And if I can do that, then everything else will be easy after that. Okay, there we go. I think I did it. Well, it's great to be with you again in Indonesia. I was so happy to have the opportunity a few weeks ago to also speak at the university and with all the people who joined. If you're watching live on Zoom, welcome. If you're watching on YouTube, you're also welcome. It's great that you're able to join. And if you're looking at the recording, well, I hope you enjoy it as well. Thank you very much for the lovely introduction. And by the way, a happy Halloween to you from the United States of America. This evening is a major festival in our country. It's a fun tradition going back a long time and originating in Europe. And we are sort of celebrating this evening because with this COVID pandemic, everything is different. As you know, maybe you know, one of the characteristics of Halloween is that children dress up in all sorts of interesting costumes and fun costumes, and they will visit houses in their neighborhood, and they will get lots of nice sweets and candies. But unfortunately, a lot of the celebration is not happening that way. We're improvising in a different way. So anyway, I'm happy to be with you here on a Saturday evening, October 31st, just south of San Francisco, California. And I'm delighted to be addressing you guys. Many of you are in November 1st already, November 1st. And I think Amelia, if I'm not mistaken, is in Belfast in Ireland. Yes, that right? You're still in Belfast. Great. Well, I'd love to talk to you this evening about, or this morning where you are, about blockchain technology, something you're hearing a lot about. And I want to tie it with my other big topic, which is the future of cities. And I want to ask the question and have you think about it and explore this topic. Can blockchain technology save our cities? And that's what I'd like to speak to you tonight about for the next 45 minutes or so. And so we start with this question, and I ask you, can blockchain technology save our cities? And I'm here to tell you the answer is no. The answer is no straight away. However, it may help. Blockchain technology may help. Like many technologies, blockchain is one that possibly, if we use it in certain ways, could help us build better communities, more efficient communities. And I want to look at that and go deep on that topic today with all of you. Now, I'd like to start with just presenting the state of the world and the state of our cities. I'll go from there to introducing blockchain, and then we'll look at examples of how you can tie blockchain technology with our cities. So cities are the dominant place for humans today. Over half the world lives in cities, as a matter of fact. And we're quickly approaching 60% of human populations on the planet. That's over, 3.6 billion people. And it's going to increase rapidly. The United Nations says that about 2 to even 3 million people move into cities every single week. And we're building city infrastructure the size of New York City every month. And we will do that for the next 40 years. In the world today, we have about 10,000 cities. About 10,000 cities. And by the way, what's really surprising, almost 50% of those cities didn't exist 40 years ago. And that's 1980, by the way. So urbanization is rapidly increasing. Humans are flooding into cities. Cities are growing rapidly. We have, for the first time, megacities. These are cities with over 10 million people. And there's more than 10, now 12, maybe 14 of these cities in the world. Some of them are as high as 35 million people. Tokyo in Japan has 35 million people living in one urban settlement. It's a phenomenal achievement. It's a phenomenal achievement. More people have been brought out of extreme poverty by cities than anything else humans have created. Our cities are a remarkable, complicated human invention. Between the years 2008 and 2015, about 200 million people in India were brought out of extreme poverty because of urbanization. But with this rapid change, with this rapid evolution, our cities and our challenges are also growing. Here's just a picture that shows you of the issues of decaying infrastructure, of issues of overpopulation in certain areas, of congestion. And you can probably also imagine there's problems with carbon emission and the quality of air. In fact, yes, we have created incredible consumer societies, and that consumer society requires the production of materials and products and services that have a byproduct often of pollution, which spews into the air. The World Health Organization says that up to 3 million people die each year directly or indirectly as a consequence of poor air quality. And it's our cities that are driving this unrelentless pace. I think we need to fix that. And with all this consumerism, we're creating so much waste in the world. So much waste. Particularly, we have fallen in love with plastic. We all like our plastic bottles of water and Coca-Cola or Coke Zero, which is my favorite. We all buy our different products in stores or from the internet, and it comes in multiple layers of packaging. When we go to the store, we get plastic bags that we populate with plastic packaging, sometimes capturing plastic products. And that plastic doesn't go away. We have to dispose of it. We have to have improved, high quality waste management. Where does the plastic end up if we don't manage it well? Well, you can see in this picture, it's destructive to our natural habitat and to our homes and to our health. Now, this plastic in particular, often it washes out to sea and it washes into our streams and our rivers. This plastic has found its way into the center of the beautiful, pristine Pacific Ocean between where I am in California and where you are in Asia. And in the center, there's a massive area that's about the size of Texas, or to give you another perspective, about the size of France. It's a huge area that's made up of plastic trash. It's caught in this geographic phenomena called a gyre. And the plastic isn't in the shape of bottles and bags and different plastic products. It's all broken up by the motion of the ocean. In fact, it is little plastic beads. If you were to take a ship or a boat to the center of the Pacific and meet this gyre, this area of plastic, you would put a sieve through the water and pick it up, and you would see tiny, tiny, tiny little beads of plastic. And unfortunately, the fish eat this plastic, not because they enjoy it or they want it. It's as they were going around eating other fish and or I should say plankton and other fish food, they swallow the plastic. And then guess who eats the fish? We eat the fish. So we are ingesting that plastic, that very waste that we're disposing of. What will be the long-term impact of that intersection of plastic and waste with our bodies? I think we will find out in the years ahead. Well, one of the defining characteristics of our cities over the last 100 years has been the car. The car. If you are in Jakarta, you know what I mean. The streets are clogged with cars. Now, I'm not opposed to cars. In fact, cars have been really amazingly successful. They've transformed the way we move people and goods and services across our planet, between our cities, between our countries. But today, so many of our urban environments are built around the car and not built around people. We need to build our cities around people. Our cars are congesting the arteries. They're spewing out carbon emissions. And if you believe the scientific consensus, which I do, this carbon emission is heating up the earth and creating a climate emergency. A climate emergency that we must try to resolve, or at least manage. Cars also kill a lot of people. Each year, about 1.4 million people die because of automobiles. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters and friends and children. And many, many more, tens of millions of people are injured. So we can't separate this phenomena of the car or the truck or the motorcycle with our urban environments. They go together. And if we want to solve some of the biggest problems of our time, we would do well to confront the challenges of modern transportation. Around 630 cities around the world, about 630 cities around the world are on coastlines. And those coastlines the water is rising in many areas. Those cities represent about 1.5 billion human beings. So as those cities flood, or they find themselves the target of increased natural disasters. So when there's a hurricane or a typhoon, it's going to be stronger and it's going to be more frequent and it's going to be longer. So our cities are on the front line of this climate emergency. We see more flooding. We see more disasters. We see more impact. We see more economic devastation. Now, we created a lot of these problems ourselves as humans, and we created a lot of this problem in cities. Turns out we're going to solve a lot of this problem in cities. Now, we might not be actually fixing it, but we can manage it better, and there's still time. The average temperature of the Earth over the last 100 years has increased by 1 degree Celsius. You may think that's not so much over 100 years. But 1 degree Celsius, if you go back 3 degrees Celsius or longer, you get the Ice Age. When, for example, where I am right now, had several thousand feet of ice covering it. And I'm in beautiful, sunny Northern California, by the way. Now, if you go forward another degree or two, the average temperature goes up 3 degrees. The conditions on Earth become so extreme that it becomes very difficult for us to live. All the natural disasters get more frequent and more devastating. The droughts get drier and longer. The oceans become more acidic and the sea level rises. We have to solve this problem. We have to manage it, and we're going to do it in our cities. Now, that's the issues, and that's the scene for our cities in the world. I hope you agree that they are a big deal. They're a big deal for all the positives they create. Better education, better healthcare, better economic opportunities. All these things are favorable in cities for the most part, but there are a lot of problems to solve. Issues that range from transportation to energy to equality and inclusion and to climate and more. Now, I want to put that subject just to the side for one moment. And now I'd like to begin the conversation on blockchain. Because now you know the issues of our cities, let's talk about solutions. And one of the areas of a solution is a new technology. No doubt, if we're going to create better, prosperous, healthier, more livable cities, we are going to engage and use more technology and new ideas, and we're going to be bolder about the future. Now, when you think about blockchain, it's quite likely that you think about something like Bitcoin, or you think about cryptocurrency, this digital money. Well, let's do a little bit of history. Let's go back a little ways. We're not talking too long. We're going to go back to 2008. That's 12 years ago. In fact, this week, I believe, is the birthday of Bitcoin, the 12th birthday. Back in 2008, a paper was published that introduced this idea of a peer-to-peer digital money platform, which will be called Bitcoin. And fundamentally, what that paper proposed was a solution to a problem that had been difficult to solve up until that point. The problem was called the double spend problem. The double spend problem. And the concept of the double spend problem is when you are dealing with digital things, whether it's music or even files on your computer like a spreadsheet, you can infinitely copy it with no incremental cost. So when you put that, you apply that logic in a world of digital money, it's possible that you can just copy the money multiple times. And so if I only have $100 and I give it all to you and I copy it again, I have another $100 again, right? Well, we can't have that. We can't have that because if I can infinitely just duplicate money or double spend it, as we say, then it has absolutely no value. You have to have integrity to the system. If I spend $100, I should have $100 left and I can't spend it again. That's a difficult problem to solve. And in this paper in 2008, a proposal was made that would solve the double spend problem. Now, I used some pretty cool technology to do that. And in fact, part of it was this idea of a distributed ledger. So let's talk about that a little bit. In order to appreciate how this technology was able to support and fix or resolve the challenge of the double spend problem, we have to talk about databases for a moment and traditional databases. I've been in computers for about 30 years. And from all of that time, mostly, the most normal way in which we would store and distribute data was through a database. And the mechanism and the manner in which we did that was we would have a central system, like in this picture, where a database would be stored, and each of the nodes that were connected to this database would retrieve information. And so if a person needed to be given permission, there would be a central authority, maybe an administrator. The owner of the database would say, yes, you can access it, or no, you may not access it. That has worked very well. In fact, most of the systems in the world continue to be that way. Most of the systems you access, whether it's Facebook or Oracle systems or Salesforce, or you use something like a on-demand vehicle system like Grab or Uber, where you are, most of the technological systems today, including TikTok, use this notion of a centralized database. Well, what we need is something a little bit different in support of solving the double spend problem. We need something that doesn't do this, because fundamentally, when we are exchanging digital money, we need to have a place where it's stored and tracked and basically managed. So we don't use a traditional database. We use something called a decentralized system or a decentralized database. Well, we call it a distributed ledger because think of a ledger. We know what that is from our accounting classes, right? It's where entries are made. There's an entry made that shows money going in. There's an entry made that shows money going out. So here's the difference between a traditional database and a blockchain database. In a traditional database, you can see it's centralized. You can modify records. And most importantly, there's central management. So somebody, some individual or entity has control over that traditional database. This idea of a decentralized ledger, or we will use now the term blockchain because that's what it is very different. It's a decentralized system. You cannot modify records, and that's that new term in English called immutable, or it's a new term in this context. And there's no central management. These are some very important distinguishing factors when we think about the difference between traditional databases and blockchain databases. So let's go back to that paper back in 2008 that introduced the idea of Bitcoin and the challenge of the double spend problem. In that paper, it talks about a decentralized ledger or distributed ledger technology that for every person that will participate in exchanging Bitcoin currency, they would have a copy of the database on their computer. There would be no centralized system. And the way in which transactions would be validated and approved over this network of participants would be through consensus. All of the connected nodes, all of the connected participants would have to approve. Now, without going too much deeper, because it starts to get even more complex, it's this idea of an immutable, decentralized database system with consensus that begins to solve the double spend problem. Now, just fast forward and know that indeed this DLT, this distributed ledger, which became known as blockchain, absolutely solved the double spend problem. And boom, in 2009, Bitcoin was born and became a viable digital currency, or we call it a cryptocurrency because we use cryptography to be able to in effect, enable the system to work. So that's really where the story ends with Bitcoin and cryptography, and the story of blockchain really explodes. What I want you to do is to now separate these two things. Too many people, again, connect blockchain to Bitcoin. They almost use them interchangeably, like they mean the same thing, but they're not the same. Blockchain is an enabling technology that solves the double spend problem, that allows us to have Bitcoin and thousands of other types of cryptocurrencies. But blockchain itself is a very unique type of database system. Cryptocurrency just becomes another application that runs on top of a blockchain database, as if, this was an Oracle database or a SQL database, and different applications ran on top of it. Everything from TikTok to Twitter to Facebook to Grab, Salesforce, and beyond. Now we have a new database. A new database was born by the fact that we needed to solve the double spend problem. So now you have a distributed database that doesn't have any central management and has a high degree of integrity and eliminates any issues with duplicative digital transactions. What might you do with that? Well, it turns out there begins to be quite a lot of applications of this system. Now, I want to give you a few examples, and then I want to tie it into our cities. And that's how we bring this whole story to an end. And hopefully it's the start of your discovery and the start of your education about these items. So there's a big shipping company in the world, one of the largest in the world. It's called Maersk. Yeah, Maersk is in the business of moving these massive containers on huge ships around the world. And today, as you know, hundreds of billions of dollars of trade are done this way, trillions of dollars per year. And when these massive containers arrive in ports, there's a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of paperwork that takes place between the ship, the shipping company, and the receiver. When the containers have to be put on ships to send somewhere, there's a lot of paperwork too. Sometimes, for example, when these container ships pick up, say, bananas in South America, they have to fill out paperwork that shows, yes, I'm receiving this many tons of bananas. And when that ship then arrives, let's say in the port of Los Angeles here in California, the paperwork is shown again. And then whoever receives it says, yes, I have received that many tons of bananas in a container. Now, as you can imagine, not everybody is honest. Surprise, surprise. And as container ships go around the world, this paperwork, sometimes it's not complete, and sometimes there's fraudulent activities, and sometimes it even gets lost. How might you solve that problem? How might you build a higher degree of integrity into the supply chain of massive shipping containers? So Maersk was really quite adamant to find a solution. And then they discovered blockchain technology, and they realized here's a database that would allow new entries to be made in it. They can't be deleted. They can't be altered. There's a high degree of integrity because the only way transactions can move or be entered into the system is through consensus of all the participants. So Maersk started building a system, an electronic system, as an experiment that would have each of those transactions that were typically done via paperwork now done electronically, with the back end being blockchain technology. And yes, it started to improve the integrity of those transactions using that technology. Maersk was one of the first to suggest by their work that blockchain could be an enabler of higher integrity in the global supply chain. Now let's talk further about that. I like this particular example because it really is a human example. You all know the United Nations well, right? Built after World War II as a way to avoid future wars, but for countries to collaborate and work together, and for ways for countries to help each other. And so the United Nations has a world food program that helps people when disasters happen, when there's war, when there's hunger. And so what happens is after a disaster, the United Nations then coordinates the distribution of either food or money for food. And often it's a lot of money, right? Hundreds of millions of dollars involved. And so if it's being coordinated, let's say out of Geneva and Switzerland, and the crisis is happening in South America, there's a lot of coordination. There's a lot of brokers in between, setting up the paperwork, setting up the systems, identifying those in need, funneling the money and the goods, the food in this case, through the supply chain down to the individual who needs it. And this is how we've been doing it since, after World War II. More often than we would like, unfortunately. But again, not everybody's good. Not everybody has good intentions. And as the money flows through these complex supply chains on their way to individuals, some of it is taken as overhead because there's a lot of cost. Some of it is stolen. And some of it just never makes it to the people it's supposed to go to. So the United Nations took a look and said, how can we use a system that has higher integrity and helps us make sure that the money that goes in finds its way successfully to those that need it on the other side, to that very individual who's lost their home, living in a camp perhaps, or whose circumstances are just really bad. Well, sure, they tried to use and experimented with blockchain technology. They knew that if monetary transactions went into the system, digital money, for example, it could flow through the system with high integrity and have only consensus to approve transactions such that they had complete transparency to everyone, and it would increase the integrity of that supply chain. And it worked. It worked. And so the United Nations expanded that experiment again and again, and they continue to. It's growing in its impact and its positive impact on both the individuals at the very end of that supply, but also for everyone else who's participating, knowing that there was a higher degree of integrity. Now, hopefully this works, but in the government environment, there are many, many applications where we store data and we change data. Sorry, where we store and we use data for government services for communities. There was just a few. In fact, because it went so fast, I would like to show it one more time. And I hope it shows as scrolling on your desktop. Who knows? Because somebody's drawing on the screen there. I think that's pretty cool. Didn't know you could do that. There you go. It's gone. Voting records, identity management, birth and death certificates. These are ways that governments can increasingly use blockchain technology to improve the delivery of services and the integrity of those systems over the traditional mechanisms that we use today. One of the hardest problems in the world today is how do we go to a more higher trust-based system of voting? Now, here I am in the United States of America. I'm here in California. It's soon to be November 1st. And in just a few days, we have a general election, as you well know. And we have 50 states and we have hundreds of voting systems around this country. We have no central system and there's no commonality or standardization. Many of the systems, the vast majority, are actually paper-based. And there's lots of questions about voting ballots getting damaged or lost or fraudulently submitted. And so the question becomes, well, why don't we have electronic voting? Why don't we have internet voting? It still seems like for most countries in the world, this is a long ways off. Turns out that blockchain technology might help us have better elections, no matter what kind of election we're talking about. It could be for a leadership of a country or a city, but it also could be elections in your school or in your community, or elections within an organization, perhaps for union representation. And here we are, we're looking at a picture of a beautiful little town in the country of Switzerland. This country is called Zug. And the council there have generally been very supportive of supporting blockchain innovation. And there are a few hundred blockchain companies in this little town. It's like the blockchain capital of the world. It's called Zug, Z-U-G, if you want to look it up. And because there are so many blockchain companies in this town or this little city, the government uses it for all sorts of things, and they've tried to use it for voting. So Zug now is one of the first countries in the world to successfully use blockchain technology to improve the voting process. Here you have the incredible city of Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. I'm very fond of this city and I visit often. I haven't been this year because of the pandemic, but typically I would go to Dubai maybe 4 times to 6 times a year. And I have some very nice friends there. And it's a remarkable place to visit. One of the characteristics of Dubai and the UAE generally is a remarkable focus on the future, on the adoption of technologies to make their societies better supported, make services more efficient, make government and city government work better. So no doubt, as you can imagine, the city of Dubai has been experimenting with blockchain. And they have a lot of projects to try to optimize and improve the integrity of their systems using blockchain technology. They continue to have a very aggressive blockchain strategy to solve all sorts of issues, including, for example, helping with their paperless initiative, reducing all the paperwork of government. Wouldn't that be a great thing? They have a paperless strategy that by 2022 means that most, if not all, government services will be electronically supported. Now, one of the other areas that challenges our communities, and this is a big problem for developing areas of the world, many people in the world don't have any form of ID. And because they don't have any form of ID, they have more difficulty participating in society. The lack of an ID makes it almost impossible for a person to have a bank account. And without a bank account, they can't easily participate in the global finance system or build a business. Everything must be done with cash or barter, and it just is not very good. So there's many initiatives around the world, including one recently in India where every single person got a unique ID. And for the very first time in a country of well over 1 billion people in India, everybody would be able to participate in a whole vast array of services and opportunities because now they had a unique ID. One of the first countries in the world to issue an electronic ID was the country of Estonia, one of the Baltic states in Northwest Europe. After the Soviet Union collapsed in early in the 1990s, like late 80s, actually in 1990, the country was liberated from the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics and had to start from scratch. And it's a small country of just about 2.5 million people, but they built all their systems then electronically, including an elaborate digital identity process that allows them to do remarkable things. First of all, and I love this, if you want to use a computer system anywhere in Estonia for doing any type of government activity, you can use your identity card. There's no need to create yet another login name and another password and to have multiple versions of that. You also don't need to duplicate information because it's all known about you in the system. So rather than every time you have to fill out a form, you need to enter your name, your address, other details. Your identity is stored in a system and brought into whatever it is that you are using. Increasingly, the Republic of Estonia is using blockchain technology to support the advancement and the expansion of their digital economy. They're doing elections online now very effectively, and it's a model for the rest of the world. Now, they're a small country, so they have benefits. We'll see if it can scale to larger countries like the United States of 330 million people, or Indonesia of several hundred million, or India and China of well over 1 billion people. I just have one or two more examples here, and then we'll take some of your questions. In the country of Georgia in Eastern Europe, in order to experiment and take advantage of blockchain technology, the country initiated a new registry of homes, a new way to manage land titles for every home, so that they could have a record of every home and every owner and every transaction that took place relative to real estate. Today, they have a very successful system that has over 1.5 million land titles registered in this Georgian database. It's one of the most successful of all blockchain technology projects in a government context anywhere in the world. And it works. And it works really well. It continues to be expanded. They have a system of now high integrity, where people trust it, and where it delivers better results than traditional mechanisms. Some of the bigger issues and problems in the world that we need to address will be when cars drive themselves. And this won't be too far out. Within a few decades, all cars will drive themselves, and humans will not own or drive cars. Blockchain technology has been experimented with for cars to communicate with each other, car-to-car technology, where they don't have to report into a central system, where there are needs that are triggered in real time between vehicles and within infrastructure. Blockchain may be the enabling technology for that. As our cities grow and our needs grow, our appetite for energy also increases. It's not like we are using electricity less. Many of our beautiful modern new cities, including those in Jakarta and in Indonesia, including Jakarta, use a lot of new big screens and lights and other artifacts of contemporary cities, and all requires more and more energy. And of course, we have more sources of energy today. We have our carbon energy, our gas, coal, and oil, but we're increasingly using non-carbon energies. It's better for the planet. It's the way in which we're going to contribute towards reducing the rate at which the temperature of the earth is increasing, by using things like solar, by using things like wind and thermal and wave motion, and perhaps even, nuclear too, and then perhaps in the future, fusion technology. But solar appears to be a big winner. Solar appears to be having a lot of success. And today, a single unit of power generated from the sun is the lowest cost unit of power in the world. There are communities already that are generating enormous amounts of energy in their communities by using solar. Here's the city of Freiburg in Germany, where many of the homes are covered in solar panels and are generating all the power they need. In fact, some of these homes produce more energy than they need, and it results in the homeowners selling the power back to the grid at a profit. In the future, we may not have electrical bills. We may have electrical checks where we actually get a check from the electrical company for our production. Now, in order to manage the the movement and pricing of electricity. We need a system that is high integrity, that can work between devices and systems without a central authority. And guess what? Blockchain may be the solution for that. And we see already blockchain technology being used in these very elaborate solar communities. We already see blockchain, for example, being used to create a cryptocurrency called, in this case, Solar Coin, that's used for incentivizing and creating trades between providers and users of solar energy. So I spent a little bit of time with you this morning in Indonesia and this evening here in the United States and wherever else you're joining from. But we could talk about it a lot more. But my plan here was to tell you about the issues of our cities, to explain to you what blockchain technology is and how they might intersect, how we might use blockchain in a variety of challenges and actually have better outcomes. Now, blockchain isn't going to solve all our problems, nor is it going to be the way in which we build smarter, more sustainable communities in the future, but it certainly might help. And it's well within the realm of our exploration and innovation responsibilities to ensure that we look at every possibility. Now, as I wrap up today, if you are interested in this topic, blockchain used in our cities, or you're interested in artificial intelligence used in our cities, or drones, or the future of buildings, or the future of autonomous vehicles, or any aspect of the future of our communities, guess what? I have written a book on it. I have written a best-selling book on these topics and the future of cities in one single book. You don't have to buy multiple books. It is a complete story, and you can get it at www.smartcitybook.com. And hopefully in there you will find a place that's local to you where you can order the book, or you can just go to your favorite bookstore or online bookstore and order the book if you're interested. But I have a better offer. I have a special offer for all of you guys today. I have a very special offer. I will sign a copy. I will personally sign a copy and send it to you if you would like. If you go to shop.smartcitybook.com, that's shop.smartcitybook.com. Tell me your name, your address, and if you want me to sign it in a particular way. And I will sign a copy and send it to you. And if you mention this webinar today, if you mention the university or some, so just so I know that you attended, I will give you 15% of the retail price, 15%, and I will sign it and send it to you. So I hope that you will take that opportunity up, because I would be thrilled for you to learn about this topic and be able to talk about these things and to be able to create businesses and even maybe create a better city that you live in. Now, I just want to wrap up and say thank you very much for this opportunity. I hope it was somewhat useful to you and inspiring. And maybe if it was complicated, it was intriguing enough that you want to learn more. But I'd also love for you to connect with me. Connect with me on Twitter. And if please, if you connect on Twitter and tell me you connected because of this webinar, I might even send you a free book. I might send you, I'm planning to send one free book signed by me with a note to you if you follow me on Twitter. But follow me anyway, because I tweet very interesting things and I'd be happy to have conversations with you and answer your questions. So again, I just want to say thank you very much for the remarkable privilege. And I'll conclude there with hopefully the ability for the next few minutes to answer some of your questions.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Jonathan. It was an amazing and inspirational talk for this morning. So we will go to the question and answer session. I think we still have a few minutes here. So,
would you like me to go down the list, or would you like to choose
I
some
will
questions?
read the question. I will read the question for you. So the first question comes from Septi Mulyaningsi from the University of 17 Agustus 1945 Semarang. The question is, Was blockchain technology created for all businesses? Thank you.
Well, blockchain in its current format was created to support Bitcoin, right? So it really was the solution to the very first practical major cryptocurrency in the world. Now, the exciting thing is blockchain can be made available for applications in any industry. The blockchain technology underlying Bitcoin, for example, is free. It's open source, it's free. So anybody can use it and anyone can fork it. If you understand what that means, you can take the code base and make your own code base. And many, many thousands and probably tens of thousands of organizations have done that. So yes, blockchain technology is free, open source, and can be used by any company.
Okay, thank you. We will go for the next question. Do you still have time for how many questions, Jonathan?
Yeah, we can. We go with. Let's go till 5 past the hour, if that's okay with you. So we have about 8 minutes, and
Okay.
we'll try to do some quick answers. Okay.
Okay, no problem, no problem. Okay, we'll go for the second question. It's from Berliana Amelia from IT Telkom Surabaya.
Cool.
What is the urge or the emergence to develop the cryptocurrency for developing countries whose digital infrastructure is not ready or even the level of digital literacy is one of the lowest in the world? Thank you.
Oh, I wouldn't let those be challenges. No. Firstly, the internet and the infrastructure needs for blockchain are very basic. It's none of the needs, for example, that you would require for video or video streaming, which is much more sophisticated. In most blockchain transactions, you're moving basic text across networks. So if you can text message on your mobile phone, you can have a blockchain infrastructure. So don't be concerned about insufficient infrastructure. I would very much encourage every country and every society to explore this technology, and it won't be limited by infrastructure. And of course, all of our infrastructures are improving, so it can only get better. In terms of expertise, well, yes, just like any technology, if you're whether you have to use a JavaScript or Python or Amazon Web Services or Microsoft Azure, there is some technical expertise required. But I will say this, and I want to really encourage you. All the expertise you need to be able to develop blockchain solutions is free and online and ready for you right now. Unlike technology and issues from the past where things were expensive and unavailable, all the lessons, all the code, all the videos, everything is available for every one of you. So if you're passionate and you want to do this, and by the way, blockchain is a very high demand skill where you can get paid good money no matter where you live. I would encourage you to pursue it.
All right. Thank you for the answer. So we will go for the next question. This is from Usron Rizky from the University of Malang.
Great.
If blockchain has no central management, how to set up the system to keep it running as desired? Thank you.
Well, there are different blockchains. So for example, if the person who asked the question wanted to create their own blockchain solution, they could fork the Bitcoin software or Ethereum or many of the others, and then it would be up to you possibly to keep it updated. Now, in the case of Bitcoin, there's a consortium of participants all over the world who are committed to improving the code, and they use open source approaches, which are now very mature. just like we do when updating things like WordPress, um, or and other open source platforms. Um, so the nature of sort of the um, um, let's call it consensus mechanism to enable changes to be approved into the core software is very well established, and it's not a concern. And if you spin off your own version, then you and your friends and your colleagues can also establish a protocol for making sure the system is kept up to date.
All right.
So many great questions. Wow.
Yeah. Okay, we still have some question here. I think. Okay, it's from Emmanuel Sialagan from Institut Telkom Purwokerto. Because blockchain is a technology, it might be possible to hack it by irresponsible people. So how do you keep using the blockchain without fear that it will be hacked? Thank you.
I like that you asked this question because as we build more and more advanced systems and solutions, we must make cybersecurity a priority in all of those decisions. In fact, one of the attractive qualities about blockchain is how difficult it is to hack. Because there is no central system, so there's no single point of failure, because there is no individual who has total ownership and they can be the person who can be exploited or can cause harm. Because the system uses consensus and cryptography to work, the likelihood of hacking is extremely, extremely low. However, humans are smart. Sometimes they break things and sometimes they break into things. And so we can't say it's zero, but we can say it's extremely, extremely strong against hackers and very, very has very good cybersecurity.
Okay, I think this will be the last question.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Perfect. One more question and we'll wrap it
Yeah.
up. Yes.
One more question. Yeah. It's from Zainul Muhajir from IT Telkom Purwokerto. How do we develop blockchain development, especially cryptocurrency, whether using programming in general or different from that? And what are the right ideas to compete with blockchain developers who are now starting to be big and famous? Thank you.
Well, the good news is there are still vast, vast opportunities to be a leader and to be an innovator in the blockchain economy. So don't worry about other people. Don't worry about, other big names in the development community. There's still so much opportunity. What's most important in innovation is a great idea, right? And so I can't tell you what to pursue. Only you can think of that. You need to grab a good friend or a couple of friends and sit around and brainstorm what might be a great idea. If you want to create another cryptocurrency, do it. Do it. You can create it the software is free, so you can actually spin off and create your own cryptocurrency. And you never know, it might become bigger than Bitcoin. There's no reason why it should not come from Jakarta or some city in Indonesia or Southeast Asia or frankly anywhere in the world. So figure out your idea. There's massive, massive opportunity. I talked about cities today, but there's opportunity in every industry. And don't be concerned about others. Just decide what you're going to do. Grab the software and roll it out. Make it happen.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Jonathan. I think we are at the end of the session today. Thank you very much for your time. But before ending our webinar today, would you mind if we can have a photo session together with all the audience?
Of course, that would be my
Yeah.
pleasure. I don't know how you're
Yeah.
going to do
So
it, but go for it.
yeah, I think we have our friend that will take the photographs or of the audience. So for all the audience, could you please turn on your camera so we can take photos with Dr. Jonathan? Ya, teman-teman dapat mengaktifkan kameranya. Kita dapat
It's,
melakukan sesi foto bersama. Yes.
no, I was going to say on Zoom alone we have 200 people, and so it's going
Yeah.
to be 200 faces. Who knows how many people on YouTube? Could be many more, but I can't wait to see this picture. I want a copy. I want you to send me a copy,
Yeah. We will send you the copies.
please.
Okay. Admin yang akan ini bisa memandu mungkin.
Untuk foto sesi bersama, saya untuk yang pertama 3, 2, 1. Oke, sudah. Lanjut yang kedua. Baik. Kedua, 3, 2, 1. Oke, selanjutnya satu kali lagi. 1, 2, 3. Baik. Silakan Kak Emil melanjutkan.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Dr. Jonathan, I would like to say thank you very much for your time. And it was really nice to learn from you about the cities and technology. We really looking forward to see you again in the next chance. Thank you very much. I wish you all the best and stay safe.
Thank you, and thank you very much for the opportunity. You stay safe, and we'll see you again. Bye.
See you. Bye. Demikianlah sesi webinar kita pada hari ini. Terima kasih untuk teman-teman yang telah menyempatkan hadir pada webinar hari ini. Saya pribadi memohon maaf yang sebesar-besarnya jika ada jika ada hal yang tidak berkenan selama webinar ini berlangsung. Semoga webinar ini dapat bermanfaat untuk kita semua dan semoga kita dapat mendapatkan banyak pelajaran dari webinar kita pada hari ini. Saya akhiri sesi kita. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan selamat siang. Saya kembalikan kepada admin jika ada yang ingin disampaikan.
Baik, untuk presensi bisa dilihat di tampilan layar yang sudah ada, yaitu untuk presensi hanya bisa dilakukan hari ini saja, yaitu sampai pukul 5.17 WIB, 17.00 WIB. Jadi dipersilakan untuk langsung mengisi presensi yang ada, yaitu bit.ly/press-blockchain. Saya ulangi lagi, untuk presensi hanya dilakukan hari ini saja, yaitu pukul 17 WIB. Untuk linknya adalah bit.ly/press-blockchain. Sekian dari kami. Dipersilakan untuk peserta meninggalkan room Zoom. Terima kasih.